All right, hi. Um, Next question is from Samantha. Very good morning to you, Samantha. Okay, and so Samantha's writing in, and the question basically centers around a video made by a doctor in New Zealand, which is talking about ways you can prepare your house and yourself in case somebody in your family gets COVID-19. And so, all right, let's have a look at it. So I watched this thing. And it is a mix. It is kind of a mix of weird pseudoscience and actual good advice. And so let's pick out the good advice parts. Yeah. And then, whatever. We can put the rest of the stuff in a box. So if somebody were to actually get COVID in your family and it was a mild case, then what they would do, they can do a lot of different things in the hospital. And honestly, the doctor is, their job is to be like on it and figure out what needs to be done. And so that's fine. That's a different job than what I am trained to do. And we're going to let them do their job because they're good at their job, better at it than the guy who doesn't know their job, for sure. Um, uh, as I understand it, at least part of that is going to be trying to keep the person well hydrated. That's just like general supportive care. Yeah, comfortable, well hydrated, don't move around too much, and then checking to see what else is wrong and trying to adjust that as much as possible. Now, that's stuff they can do in the hospital, but the well rested, comfortable, and well hydrated, that's something you can totally do. She mentions a cheap kind of pulse oximeter. Those are a good idea. Yeah. If you can get one of those cheap off Amazon or wherever one gets home medical supplies these days, that is a reasonable thing. It's been pointed out earlier on by I think some doctors in New York. They said that pulse oximeters were quite useful in predicting when somebody was going to take a turn for the worse. So their oxygen levels would drop down, and then you would start to notice other stuff. The idea was that it might even be a little bit more sensitive than the person themselves, because like you can keep asking them, "Hey, how are you? How's it feel?" But it doesn't necessarily feel different from 1 minute to another, or 5 minutes from now, from 10 minutes from now. But if you notice that drop in blood oxygen level, then that's a good sign that something is not working right with their breathing, and that is a good reason to get them to the hospital immediately, where they can actually do something more than what you can do in your home, which is exactly what you want in this case. They've got oxygen, they've got ventilators if it comes to that, and they've got people whose job it is to watch and who know some stuff. And so that's how they're basically going to take care of you. Now, I don't know, the other 90% of the video is things like priming your immune system. And so she's talking about things like zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D. These are all fine, and severe deficiencies in vitamin C and D, anyway, do cause, among other things, big problems with the immune system. Most people eating anything like a normal modern diet would have fine levels of these, and the supplements do not seem to do much in the large clinical trials that have been done. So there isn't a lot of science behind these that says that this is actually something that's going to help. Like you can have enough and you can have more than enough, which is kind of the same as enough until you get way too much, in which case it's toxic. But if you have way less than enough, then you got problems. So as long as you've got roughly enough, it's okay. So just eat a normal balanced diet. Yeah, that's fine, and you're probably doing that already. Yeah. I say, and avoid junk food, which fine, avoid junk food anyway. It's not because it's going to make you, more resistant to COVID. It's just, yeah, just do it. You'll feel better about yourself. He also recommends the highly, highly unscientific diluting the virus. Oh my gosh. By repeatedly flushing your mouth and nose with saline, which, if it's the sort of thing that you enjoy, go for it. I find it's like a burning nightmare up in my nose, but your results may vary. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Um, it doesn't necessarily do anything to get virus out. I mean, and the place where the virus is going to be growing is right down in your bronchi, bronchioles, and you can't saline that stuff out. So there aren't a lot of cells there. No, I don't think there are any cells that would be accessible in the mouth where the virus could be. So unless you've just swallowed a COVID pill or something like that, full of SARS-CoV-2, it's not going to do you any good to rinse out your mouth, and probably not much good to rinse out your nose. What's going to do you a lot of good is wearing a mask around other people, because that'll actually block those respiratory droplets so you won't end up with them lodged in your mouth or nose, on their way to your lung. Yeah. So, yeah. And medicine is not the same as science. A lot of what doctors will do is going to be based on really good science, but there's an element in there that's going to be more like detective work, where you're going to go on hunches. And there are a whole spectrum of different kinds of doctors with sort of different levels of what I would call scientific reason informing their decisions. And they can all be good at their jobs at different aspects of them, but it doesn't mean that everything they say is necessarily going to be accurate, backed up by data, or anything other than just, I don't know, old wives' tales. Yeah, I don't know why old wives have to get beat up on that, but just like yeah, common stories that are told and nobody really remembers why, like memes, like old-fashioned memes. There we go. Yeah. The other things she's suggesting, the exercises where you blow up balloons, which I suppose that would potentially increase your lung capacity a little bit, or at least it lets you feel like you're doing something. It's probably not bad. Now, if you have COVID and you're blowing up a balloon, you've just made yourself a COVID balloon. And then if you let the air back out, you've now flooded the room with COVID fumes, yeah, from your COVID balloon. And both of those things are probably going to increase the likelihood of transmission to somebody else within your house. And I'm guessing that's not what you wanted to do with that experiment. Yeah. But as long as nobody has COVID, I guess it's all right. It probably doesn't hurt anything. She's also recommending that you breathe in a lot of steam, which, once again, no real proven medical benefit. And yeah, breathing in very hot air, which is what steam is, with a very high specific heat capacity thing in it, which is the water vapor. It just delivers a lot of heat energy to your lungs. You're sending some of your lung cells into a thermal stress condition. And yeah, I don't know, stressing out your lung cells doesn't necessarily make you healthier. It probably would predispose you to bad things, or actually cause some kind of damage to the lung cells. There's no good rationale for why that's a thing that you should be doing. Yeah, there are cases where people have tried it, but that's a thing that everybody was real hot on about 2-3 months ago. And if you notice, it died quietly because people were trying clinical studies and everything, and they just went away. And yeah, that probably means that the clinical trials didn't really do anything. And so, yeah, there wasn't really anything to publish. Although publishing negative data would help in this case to, yeah, if that's exactly what happened. But until we see the data, we don't know, because this is science, not whatever. Yeah, whatever else other people like to do. Sorry this was so long. There was a whole lot of stuff. It's a very long, informative video. It's just that it's mostly nonsense. Yeah, but very well-intentioned nonsense. And so, yeah, admire the intention. Just, you don't have to do all that stuff. Thanks very much. This is Ask Dr.